So we're always going to consider 7 factors before adding services. And doctors don't do this. They commonly get in trouble by adding services. And what's the number one reason? They think that adding services is going to create more business for them. They think that's actually going to bring new patients in if they buy a shockwave therapy or if they buy a disc decompression. They actually think the machine's going to bring the business in, and it doesn't. You've got to know marketing. If you didn't know marketing before the machine, you're not going to know it after the machine, and you just increased your overhead. You did one of the worst things you could do. You increased what's called violating the law of line extension. You just decreased your profit margin. You just increased your effort. You increased your labor. You increased your space, and you increased your monthly expenses if you tied yourself to a lease. You did one of the worst things you could do in practice or in business. And I see that happening every day with chiropractors because they don't know marketing. They're constantly reaching out for something new that'll give them business. And little do they know. And then I'm always dealing with the tail end of that. Doctors that get stuck with this equipment, these large monthly leases, and then it turns out they couldn't afford the advertising with pay-per-click. They're not getting the business, and now they're stuck with paying on an expensive machine. Well, they never knew marketing in the first place. And that was the problem. It wasn't the machine. So you always want to consider 7 factors before adding services. You don't just randomly add services. Number 1, what's the market potential? And is it passive versus active utilization? So I'll give you an example. Some of the things that chiropractors are chasing, let's say neuropathy, okay? Well, what percentage of people who have neuropathy will pick up the phone and call a chiropractor for neuropathy? They don't. It's a small number. When you have a patient come in that has neuropathy, they usually came in for back or neck pain, and oh, by the way, they had neuropathy. That is not a gateway to chiropractic. They don't naturally pick up the phone and, okay? What does that mean? It means you're going to have to advertise for it. You're going to have to market for it. It means you're going to have to spend money. You're going to have to spend time. So you not only had to buy the equipment, and hopefully it's not a monthly fee, then you had to spend money on advertising. And it rarely works where the amount of money you got to spend in advertising will break even the money that you get back. That's rare. If that was the case, think about what I just said. If chiropractors could routinely just spend the money and make twice as much back from advertising, how many chiropractors would be advertising? Everybody. Because it works all the time and they're making twice the money they're spending. Do you see all chiropractors spending money on advertising? No, that's why. So you go, well, what's the market potential? So you have these chiropractors running off willy-nilly, not even looking at any of these factors. So what's the potential market of that neuropathy? Well, it's not, which means you're either going to have to do educational sales or you're going to have to spend money on advertising to create the market. Okay, so that's the first thing you want to look at. Number 2, and by the way, it's the same thing with these disc decompressions. How many people that have disc herniations, true disc herniations, call a chiropractor? I used to only see 1 disc a month. I saw over 200 patients by myself. When the 2 associate doctors, we'd see 350. So I wasn't seeing 40 visits a week. I'd say over 50 new patients, over 300 patients. How many disc, like true herniation bulges? About 1 a month. Now they would have some disc component to some degree, but I'm talking about a true disc herniation bulge. It was about 1 a month. That was it. That's not a big market. And so you buy a $30,000 machine with a monthly payment of $400 or something like that. Well, guess what? Now you got to spend money advertising for it. And then you only have 1 machine. So when 2 people come in, one of them has to wait. You just killed your practice. You just spent more space. You spent more labor. You spent more time. You spent more energy. And the market's not even there. And I see this all the time. These machines are just dormant. I go into a chiropractor's office and I can't tell you how many dormant machines I see. They've given up on it because they never thought it through. They never thought it through. And then it costs too much money to market it. And then they're stuck with a monthly payment. I can't tell you how many times that's happened. So that's number one. What's the natural market potential? That's number one. And can you create the market? How easy is it for you to create the market? And do you really want to line extend? Do you really want to increase your space, labor, and equipment, and decrease your profit margins when it's just too easy to see another back pain patient? But that's not what's going on. So number two, space. The number one reason for high overhead, all the cost to fill the space. That's Parkinson's law. Whatever space you'll have, you'll fill it. That's one of the worst things you could do. And that's one of the easiest things to do is go, I just need more space. You'll go fill it. I was just in a doctor's office the other day. He had 3,500 square feet. I'm like, are you kidding me? He was paying $7,000 a month rent. I said, are you kidding me? What were you thinking? Did you have a gun to your head? Well, guess what he did with the space? You think he chopped it up and rented it out? No. He spread out all of his equipment to use all 3,500 square feet. That's called Parkinson's law. You'll naturally do the wrong thing. So space is that's where you got to have unbelievable discipline. You want to do everything you can not to expand your space, because it's not just the space that you're going to expand to. It's the cost per square feet. It's one of the worst things you can do to increase your overhead. So we pay a lot of attention to dual space utilization. You walked into one of my treatment rooms, it was a treatment room, it was a report room, it was a re-exam room, it was an initial exam room, it was a consultation room. I did 5 things out of that room. We didn't move them to different spaces for it. And then we went to a therapy bay. I didn't have individual rooms where there was a lot of wasted space with individual rooms. There was a therapy bay. A lot of saved space for the amount of productivity that can happen in there. And then the type of equipment we used, we saved space with. And then the layout we used was to save space with and increase productivity. You don't just keep expanding. That's the last thing you want to do, not the first. I changed my office. I had 1,700 square feet, and I changed it 3 times. I didn't expand the space. I modified it 3 different times to increase its efficiency as I grew. I didn't expand it because I knew that's the worst thing I could do. So I had to think outside the box. I had to reevaluate. And a lot of times I would ask my friends' opinions, can you see anything I'm not seeing? Because a lot of times you can't see it. The example I gave is when that doctor couldn't even see to just take down a non-weight bearing wall, and he doubled his therapy space and he solved his problem of productivity. He couldn't see it, see? Okay, so then you're going to pay attention to labor. Anytime I'm bringing something in, I'm going to labor. I'm going, what's labor? Then I'm going, what's the cost? Not only the initial cost, but you never want to buy something with monthly cost. You don't want to get involved with month. That's one of the killers of overhead is a monthly equipment cost. And then you want to go, are you getting reimbursed for it? If you're not getting reimbursed for it, not paying for it, you have no business doing it in your office. I can't believe how many times chiropractors will do a therapy in their business they don't even get paid for. I'm like, what are you doing? What are you thinking? No, you're running a business. They can do that at home where they don't get it done. That's like doctors say to me, I'll go into the doctor's office and they'll have one therapy. They'll have like 7 different therapies or 8 or 10 of one. Well, you can't run a practice with one therapy. As soon as 2 people want it, you got them waiting. And then once you see a doctor having 7 or 8, you know he's going everywhere and nowhere. The more services you offer, the less profit. That's a rule. The more services you offer, the less profit margin, the higher the labor, higher the space, higher the equipment, lower the profit, higher the overhead, and the more difficulty. You got something else to train in. You got something else to pay attention to. I did millions of dollars with 5 therapies. 5, that's it. So we didn't do an ice pack in the office. It didn't get paid. They can do an ice pack at home. I'm paying attention to these things. Cost, reimbursement. Is it attended or unattended therapy? That's pretty important because that's labor. So I'm not just going to bring something in that's going to take in more space, more labor, more equipment, and it's going to be limiting. I only can see one person at a time on. That's called not real smart. But I'm seeing it everywhere. I just walked into a chiropractor's office and he had like 12 different therapies. He had a 1970 diathermy. I go, when's the last time you used that? 3 weeks ago. You should totally remove all equipment that you're not using 80% every day. You should just throw it away. Get rid of it. People say to me, well, what if somebody comes in with plantar fasciitis? You know, I need that ultrasound therapy. No, they can go somewhere else and get the plantar fasciitis taken care of. Number one, it's not a gateway. And I'm not going to have an ultrasound machine for one person a month. It's just not smart. You can't keep adding services. You keep diluting your profit, your focus, your attention, your energy. Everything keeps getting diluted. You cannot keep, the less services you have, the more profit you're going to get. So labor, cost, reimbursement, attendant, and monthly cost. Don't get involved with any equipment that costs monthly. Don't. Either save the money to pay for it or pay for it off. You know, you just don't want to get in. You know, some of these things you pay a lot of attention to. Pay a lot of attention to labor. These are the 7 you want to pay attention to. What's the market potential? If you're getting 1 person or 2 people a month, get rid of it. And switch out those 2 people for what you do routinely. I say it all the time. I say I get rid of patients all the time and switch them out for a back or neck pain patient because I know marketing. I know how to get new patients. It's the doctors who don't know how to do it that chase everything. And that's why they chase, because they don't know how to get new patients or to keep them. That's why they're constantly chasing something. No, I only treated back and neck pain. That's it. Because I knew how to get new patients and I knew how to keep them. I didn't have to chase the shoulder. I didn't have to chase plantar fasciitis. I didn't have to buy this machine, that machine, this machine, that machine, and that machine. And so my office was a lean machine. It was like Henry Ford, an unbelievable profit center, and it was unbelievably easy. The training was easy. The systems were easy. I had 5 systems. That's it. 5. It was easy for my staff to learn it, for them to do it, to apply it. Now we just went for volume. Now we just went for profit. We didn't keep line extending. Well, let's buy this. Well, no. So it takes discipline. It takes discipline. It takes knowledge to be successful in practice. You can't just randomly just go here and there. So pay attention when you're thinking about another service. Look at what's the market potential. Is it a gateway? If it's not even a gateway, you shouldn't even be fooling with it, because you're going to have to spend money and time and effort to fill it up. And then you go space. That's the worst thing you could do. Do everything you can to reconfigure your existing space. Labor. That's the highest individual cost, 15%. There's nothing higher in a chiropractic office. Do everything you can to squeeze as much productivity out of the existing labor you have. Or when you do bring in services, they don't take labor, are very minimal. That's like these disc decompression machines. You know how much labor it takes to put somebody on and off those? And how much time it takes and how much space it takes? And it's not even a gateway? That's a nightmare. That's an expense nightmare is what that relative to profit. You know how many patients, back pain patients I can adjust that don't cost me that equipment that I can do in that space with no labor, no additional cost? Shit, I can probably see 4 or 5 people in that same space make 2-3 times as much money without the headache, the overhead, the labor, the cost. See, it's when doctors don't know marketing, when they don't know how to fill their patients with their clinic with back. That's when they're going off in all these other directions to try to increase their revenue. It's unbelievable, some of the stuff. I go out and visit chiropractic offices. They got spas in there. They're doing biomedical hormones. Why are they doing everything? Because they don't know how to get new patients and keep them. That's why. And now you got a nightmare of cost and labor and cost and overhead and you got a nightmare on your hands. So cost, labor, pay attention to this. What kind of labor is it going to be? Cost, reimbursement. If I can get reimbursed, what kind of reimbursement? Is it going to be attended or unattended? Well, that's going to be labor. How much space is it going to take? That's like, we don't even bring in therapy tables anymore just because all the space it takes. We can have a lot less square footage of an office laid out much more efficiently. And then monthly cost. So before you go and do anything, look at these 7 factors. If they don't fit, don't do it.